Good morning, everybody. My name is Kathy Leonard, and I am a benefit specialist with TRS. I've been with TRS about 6 years and on the active team about 5. And I will be doing the termination pay presentation today, and Nolan Brills will be joining us a little bit later for his portion. And with me today, I have Janelle Sedlock, who is our active team supervisor, and Margot Lilly, who is a benefit officer here at TRS. And so let's go ahead and get started. This presentation will be covering which payments qualify as term pay, what options are available for including term pay in the calculation of a TRS retirement benefit, when to have an employee sign the TRS Form 129 termination pay irrevocable election, and note that we do have a new form and fact sheet, how to use the term pay calculator and the TRS Form 113, the retirement termination pay, and we have a new tool, which is the termination pay flow chart. And in a little bit, Nolan will be joining us here and be handling the monthly reporting requirements and tips. Okay, termination pay generally includes bona fide vacation leave, personal sick leave, personal leave, and severance pay, amounts provided under window or early retirement incentive plan, other payments contingent on terminating employment and retiring. Now, please note that if your district's termination or severance package includes options or benefits other than cash payments, you must contact TRS for a determination, and that does need to be in writing and to our Executive Director, Sean Graham, before remitting a contribution on a retiring employee's behalf. To be considered termination pay, these payments must be made to the employee at the time of termination and retirement. Okay, termination pay does not include amounts that are not wages under Section 3121 of the IRC, amounts payable from a deferred compensation plan under Section 457F of the IRC, and amounts that are not actually paid to the employee at the time of termination and retirement. Amounts for which the employee was allowed a choice between a cash payment and another form of payment, such as the district offering the option of either cash or payment of health insurance premiums in lieu of cash. That does not qualify as termination pay. When an employee decides to retire, they have 3 options for the treatment of termination pay. Option 1, the termination pay gross amount is divided among the years used to calculate the average final compensation. Option 2, the termination pay gross amount is divided by total years of service credit to determine an annual amount. And option 3, where the term pay is not used in the calculation and basically the employee takes the cash. Okay, options 1 and 2 increase the retiree's monthly benefit, and the employer and the employee must make contributions to TRS to fund this increase in benefits over the employee's lifetime. Option 1 is going to be the largest increase in benefits, but it comes at the highest cost. The termination pay amount may be insufficient to fund the entire cost, and the employee may owe additional money to TRS as an out-of-pocket expense. Option 2 is a much smaller increase in benefits, and it comes at a much lower cost. Okay, for a tax deferral of the termination pay, you and the employee must sign the Form 129, the termination pay irrevocable election form, and file it with TRS at least 90 calendar days prior to the employee's retirement date. Not the last day of their contract, but their actual last day of physical work, for the employer to deduct contributions on a pre-tax basis. Otherwise, the employee may elect option 1 or option 2 if that window is missed, but they must employee contributions by personal check, and of course that would be after tax. And off to the right, you'll see a picture of the new form that we have for the 129, and the biggest thing is that the employee will have to certify that they have read and understood the termination pay fact sheet, and then make their selection and have their signatures notarized. Okay, we asked that form be signed and submitted at least 90 calendar days ahead, but we don't want the employee to sign it too far ahead. We ask that the employees contact the benefit officers and request an estimate of benefits so that they can see how that termination pay will affect their monthly benefit before they make an irrevocable election. We want to make sure that the employees understand how the termination pay and an irrevocable election would affect them. We don't want them to be surprised by a large out-of-pocket expense if they chose an option 1 and it was way before they decided to retire. Let's look at a term pay example for option 1. In this hypothetical situation where we have an employee age 60 who is retiring, and we're looking at 3 different scenarios at 25 years of service, 30 years, and 35 years, noting that the more years of service, the more this will cost the employee. The term pay amount in each one of the scenarios is $5,000. The FICA and Medicare is deducted at $382.50, and the net amount for each of the 3 scenarios is $4,617.50. In looking at the scenario for 25 years, the contribution due to TRS is $4,200, and that leaves a difference of $417.50. That amount, the employer would deduct federal and state taxes, excuse me, and net the employee a check for the net amount. And we anticipate that the monthly benefit increase would be $57.87. Now, going to the scenario for 30 years, the contribution due to TRS is $5,040, which leaves $422.50 to be paid, and that would be an out-of-pocket expense by the employee, and they would have to write a personal check to TRS for that amount. And we expect the monthly benefit increase to be $69.44, and the recovery time for the termination or the out-of-pocket expense is 6 months. In the third scenario, at 35 years, the contribution due to TRS is $5,880, leaving $1,262.50 as an out-of-pocket expense by the employee. However, we do expect the monthly increase to be $81.02, and they should be able to recover that in 16 months. Okay, using the online calculator, the term pay calculator, once the employee has terminated and the term pay amount is known, you need to log into the TRS wage and contribution reporting system. And off to the left-hand side, you'll see a bunch of buttons, and you'll go to the term pay calculator button and click on there, and you'll look up your employee by their name or by their social security number. And if you get stuck or feel a little bit lost, at the top there's the red button for the online manual, and that should be able to help you through what you need help with. Okay, in this first example, this member does have the TPIF on file, and in going into the term pay calculator, you will put in the termination date. Now, the system will calculate the retirement date and the years of service, and so the next thing you will enter is the termination pay amount. Now, note off to the right-hand side from the termination pay amount, it shows the option that the member chose on the TPIF, which is option 1 in this case, and then you will go to the FICA and Medicare lines, and off to the right-hand side you'll see icons that look like little calculators, and you will want to click on each one of the calculators, and that will automatically calculate FICA and Medicare for you. And then your last step is to click the calculate button at the bottom. Once you do that, the middle section and the bottom section appear on the page, and the middle section will show you the employee contribution due and also the employer contribution due. And at the bottom is a summary for the term pay option 1. You'll see the term pay was brought down from the top of $7,625, less FICA and Medicare leaves a net amount tax deferred of $7,041.69. However, the contribution due to TRS is $8,729.10, leaving an out-of-pocket expense of $1,687.41 that the employee is responsible for. And we do ask that you print these out so that the employee does know how much their out-of-pocket expense is. In this next example on the term pay calculator, the member does not have a TPIF on file. And again, you'll enter in the termination date and the term pay amount. And this time, if you look to the right, you'll see that it defaults to both, but you can choose option 1 or option 2 if you want to select only one option. And then you will click the calculator icons again to calculate FICA and Medicare, and then click Calculate at the bottom. And again, the middle section comes up and the bottom section comes up, and this time you will see the contributions due for options 1 and 2 both, and because they don't have the TPIF on file, the total contribution due for the employee in each option is considered to be an out-of-pocket expense, and the employee is responsible for that. Okay, and again, you will want to print out the term pay calculator, and at the top in the bar at the top, there is an icon in the upper right-hand corner that is a printer. You can go ahead and click that, and it will print out nicely for you instead of trying to piece it together, because we've had a few of those. And then you will pair it with the Form 113. And the 113 you will receive from the employee because it is a part of their retirement packet. They will complete the top half of it and sign and date it, and you will need to hold on to that until all wages have been paid and the termination pay amount has been determined. And then you will complete the bottom section of that. And the term pay calculator and the Form 113 will need to be sent to us either by fax, by email, or by mail, with the term pay calculator printout at least 1 week prior to submitting your wage and contribution report. We do that so that if there are any adjustments that need to be made, we can make those, and you will not get, hopefully, an error on your termination pay when you submit your report. And if you do email the forms to us, make sure that the Social Security numbers are blocked out so that it is sent privately and securely. Okay, and with a huge thank you to Jane Knudsen of Malta Public Schools, we have created a new termination pay flow chart so that it will help you, hopefully, to go step by step through the termination pay process. And this is what it looks like. The first page is if there is a termination pay irrevocable form on file, and it will take you step by step through the process. And if there is not a TPIF on file, you will have the second page that will take you step by step all the way through submitting your report. And now here is Nolan for his portion.
Good morning, everyone. And if anybody has any questions about term pay after, obviously we can answer those to the best of our ability. So I'm just going to go over some reporting reminders, I guess, just for the wage and contribution system. If you have any other questions or issues that you've encountered, feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation. I guess one of the biggest ones that we sent out here recently was a memo in February that wages, by law, wages must be reported to TRS on a when earned basis versus a when paid basis. So obviously I got a lot of phone calls on this and have had, some corrections for some schools. And usually they're pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, all schools seem to pay their employees just a little bit different in their like their pay periods run differently, and some pay, twice a month, some pay or every 2 weeks or whatever, and some pay, once a month. And so those, if you have questions about your situation, it's probably best to just call in to TRS and see if, everything's being reported correctly on a when earned basis. And it's too hard to, there's no really one size fits all for each school district, but some of the common, I guess, reporting errors that we've seen on this issue are just that, some clerks are reporting more than 1 month's wages and hours on a single report for their classified or hourly staff. So it usually happens at the end of the year. When they go to pay their out all their class or their certified staff for the summer. Some schools had been putting, maybe like May and June's wages and hours on for those classified or hourly staff, and then that more or less, if that happens over a period of many years, it can definitely short that person's service credit in the end. So another one that we've seen a lot of is increasing, like the FTE for a part-time. So if you have like contracted part-time people, maybe they're 0.5 FTE and you report them as 0.5 all year. Well, at the end, when you do their 3 months worth, you still report them as a 0.5 FTE at the end of the, on the summer June report. And you can't increase that to 1.5 if you're paying 3 months worth. And that's one that we've seen for sure. And then another big one that we've seen come across is schools reporting their certified or contracted staff on a when earned basis, but then putting on the same report, they're reporting their hourly or classified staff on a when paid basis on that same report. So, and we can correct those issues, like I said, if we through an adjustment and going forward. I know some clerks are reporting just because that's how it's always been reported, and we can correct those going forward, and maybe it wasn't even that particular clerk who started doing it that way, but that's fine. We still want to get it reported going forward, or corrected going forward. So any questions on these issues? So some of the issues that we run into with those type of errors is, and I guess the biggest one is that member or that employee's creditable service could be overstated or understated. In most cases, it's understated. So, and these aren't discovered. These errors usually aren't discovered until the very end of their career, when John L. and her staff, they do a service audit on all these folks that are about to retire, and that's when a lot of these errors are discovered. So it might not be till many years down the road, and it's difficult to go back and find all the records, and it's definitely costs a lot of time for TRS, but it also costs a lot of time for the clerks if they're having to go back and research it's one member's particular situation 20 years ago. So, and that might delay the member's retirement also. So, all right, if there's no questions on any of those issues with reporting on a when earned basis, just some other reminders. We probably we'll send more of these out. We're getting pretty good at sending out more memos and emails, so hopefully you're all receiving those, and if not, then definitely let us know, and we can make sure that we have your contact information updated. You guys all have access to your contact information on the wage and contribution system, so feel free to update that whenever something changes. One of, the big one that we always remind schools about is just that the monthly reporting deadline is the 15th of the following month. So if you're talking about your April report, you have until May 15th to get that in, and that should give schools plenty of time. And I usually send out reminders shortly after the 15th of the month in email, just letting you know if you haven't, if you forgot to do it, or if a school forgot to do it. We have those reminders being sent out sometime after the 15th. So the biggest one here is obviously the June report. It needs to be in by July 15th so that TRS can close out its fiscal year shortly, in that time frame. And we'll definitely send out reminders on that. So even if you have zero wages or contributions to report, it's required to do a report each month. So we have what we call like a $0 contribution report in the system, and it's pretty simple. If you've ever had to do one, you just go in and select your, hit the plus sign to add a new report, and then you make sure you have the correct pay period in there, and you can select 0 contribution report, yes, and you'll just go into the down arrow like you're going to run your report, only you can just hit submit once you're in there, and it'll post that automatically. Any questions about any of those issues? We probably just sent out one of these reminders, so hopefully everyone got it, but we'll probably send out more as the fiscal year end approaches. On July 1st, again this year, the employer contribution rate and working retiree rates will increase by 0.1%, and that will happen each year through 2024. So keep an eye out for that. Every year we have a couple schools that forget to change their contribution rates in their system. So just make sure that those are all set to change on July 1st to the new employer rates. The employee rate will stay the same at 8.15%, but the employer contribution rate for active members will go up to 9.27%, and for working retirees up to 11.65%. This was another, we sent out in the spring of 2020, we sent out a memo or a new process that TRS has for any new hires or any any new TRS members, or even people like subs that are may or may not, may opt in or opt out of TRS. But it's just a new member process, and these can all be found online. In our forms, I think there's the new hire forms, and basically what it did is it just streamlined the process and got rid of a bunch of paperwork for the clerks and business managers, and also for TRS. So you no longer need to do, no new hires need to do any of the record for membership forms, and the beneficiary designation forms are no longer necessary. Now those forms, I guess the beneficiary designation form is still available online for those people that do want to do it by paper form, but the process now is just, if you have a new hire, make sure they get the new hire handout from TRS, and that will explain to them that once they're reported to TRS, then they will receive a welcome letter in the mail, and then that welcome letter will explain to them how to set up a My TRS account online and designate their beneficiaries online. And also, I think that new hire handout even explains to them how to set up a My TRS account. The one thing you might keep in mind is just that they can't actually create a MyTRS account until you report them for the first time and they actually have wages and contributions reported and posted in the TRS system. So, you know, just because you hired someone and handed out the paperwork, you know, they actually do have to be reported for the first time before they'll be able to create that MyTRS account. But hopefully, I mean, we've seen just a huge reduction in paperwork when it comes to, you know, the beneficiary designation forms, and that's so that I hope that this has been, you know, helpful for the members as well as, you know, the business managers and TRS. Any questions on the new member process? There's a lot of information online on the TRS website, you know, about that too, if you want to look back any of those old memos in our communication archives or under the employer forms section. One of the things that is coming soon, TRS is kind of in the process of creating a online withdrawal process for our members. And I'm sure most of you in the room there have at some point had a member bring you a withdrawal application from TRS, and you have to fill out the certification of termination of employment section, and we're hoping that to you know, once this online withdrawal application process is in place, you know, it'll be more through the wage and contribution system that employers actually certify those terminations. You know, it'll say, you know, so-and-so. Yeah, we don't really know for sure how it's going to work, but we're hoping that it'll inform the employers that someone has turned in a withdrawal application and they need, you know, their certification of termination of employment or their termination certified by the school, and then it'll just ask a couple quick questions, and then that will be the end of that, and it'll be all online, and it should be much more efficient for everyone involved. So, and you know, if you have questions about that, probably best to just hold off until we actually know exactly what it's going to look like. But just kind of, that's more like a heads up, and obviously there'll be communication that comes out to the employers, you know, once that is in, you know, in working order. Any questions on any of the information or reminders? So this last slide just has, if you have questions, you know, about your wage and contribution report or reporting term pay on your report, things like that. You know, the TRS accounting team, myself, Christian, and Allie could help you out with those. If you have questions on the termination pay forms themselves and how to fill those out or where to find those or anything like that, or whether you've turned one in that you're not sure, Kathy Leonard can help you out with any of that information. And you know, obviously any just general term pay questions or active member questions, any of our benefit officers can obviously help you out there too. That's really all I had, unless there's any questions on any of the reminders for or the wage and contribution system, or any term pay questions.
I think we're good, Nolan. Thank
Okay.
you. And
thanks for having us, and everyone have a wonderful day. Stay warm.